what it does do over time, right, is it channels the wealth from the average person up to the tippy top, because you have to inflate your way out of the massive debt. And it's sneaky and it's surreptitious, but I actually think that's been the plan all along. But here's my contention. I believe the next world reserve currency won't be backed by naval superiority. It'll be backed by cyber superiority.
Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Talk Crypto. In his latest interview with the Market Sniper, investor Mark Yusko spoke about the worrying financial practices of governments, particularly the US government, and he shared his insights into what is happening behind the scenes. According to Yusko, government's recklessness in printing money and disregard for economic health has caused hardworking citizens to suffer from inflation, which he believes has been carefully planned out. The gap between the wealthy and the less fortunate continues to grow, and sadly, while the wealthy are able to accumulate more and more wealth, the working class is disproportionately pushed into poverty by inflation. According to Yusko, the best way to counter problems of the traditional economic system is by making use of cryptography technology, particularly Bitcoin, which replaces trust with truth. He believes this is why the powerful people in the traditional system disapprove of Bitcoin and try to downplay the importance of this technology. Let's hear from Mark Yusko as he shares his insights on this topic. But before we do, please consider subscribing to our channel, as we bring you daily content on the latest crypto news. And now, let's jump right into the video.
It is definitely political theater and has been for years. You know, the idea that there is a ceiling that then gets raised every single time. And the way they do it is they take prisoners, literally, and then exchange for things that one party wants in terms of pork barrel spending. So it's just a horrible system. I prefer the Japanese system, which is, hey, we don't care about debt. We'll just, buy it all ourselves. So ultimately, to your question about does it matter someday? In theory, it should, right? Like if you're a household, right? Your household, my household, and we have income, and if our spending exceeds our income, we get in trouble, right? I mean, literally, we get in trouble. And in the old days, you went to debtor's prison. So for governments, it doesn't work that way because they can just turn on the printing press and print their way out. Now, what it does do over time, right, is it channels the wealth from the average person up to the tippy top through inflation, because you have to inflate your way out of the massive debt. And it's sneaky and it's surreptitious, but I actually think that's been the plan all along. So, the average person, you go to Tokyo. They've been in this spiral of too much debt, and everybody said they're going to collapse and the country's going to fail. And they went to 100% debt to GDP, 150% debt to GDP, 200% debt to GDP. No failure. Well, why? Well, because the average person's life really didn't change, because they didn't own a lot of stocks and they didn't own a lot of real estate. They rented their apartment and they got paid their salary and they had a nice life and bought nice clothes and had a nice car. But if you look at the industry, right, they've had a whole 2 decades of just lost productivity, no real movement. But the people at the tippy top get super rich because their assets appreciate and they're happy. So I think the same thing's going to happen in the US, or has been happening in the US. And the average person, as long as they can pay their bills and go out to eat once in a while and pay their rent, they won't revolt, although they probably should. Now, we didn't have a central bank. In 1913, we created, again, based on the Rothschild model, the central bank, the Federal Reserve, which I always joke is neither federal nor has any reserves. A small group of people controlled this central bank. It's owned by the other banks. And its job isn't to promote stability and low inflation. Its job is to slowly steal the wealth of the masses and widen that Gini coefficient. And if you look from time in 1913, when there was very low income and wealth disparity, to today, 110 years later, it's massive. the greatest of history. If you think about world reserve currencies, right, since the 1400s, first was Portuguese, which you think, how did Portugal have the world reserve currency? Well, they had the fastest ships. And back then it was all about the Navy. And then we invented nuclear, and now we have the most powerful Navy. But here's my contention. I believe the next world reserve currency won't be backed by naval superiority. It'll be backed by cyber superiority. The next war, I believe, will be fought with chips, not ships.
As the world is changing rapidly, the use of cryptography, artificial intelligence, and other cutting-edge technologies will continue to have a significant impact on our future. In the next segment, Yusko explains why cryptography is so important and why those who don't embrace the change will eventually be outdone by the disruptors.
If you think about cryptography, why is cryptography so important? Cryptography is really important because it allows the creation of unique assets in the digital world. And that's a really, really, really important thing. So what Satoshi Nakamoto gave us, whoever he, she, they are, yes, Bitcoin's wonderful and amazing and very important, but it's more than that. It's the ability to create a unique asset in the digital ecosystem. And what does that mean? Well, again, record albums. Grew up playing record albums, physical, analog devices, black vinyl disc, you put it on a turntable, you spun it around, made music. Well, then they're like, well, but I could record that electronically and call it an MP3 file. And then I could copy paste, send you a copy, and you could listen to a song, I could listen to a song, and we were both happy. But the music industry was very unhappy because they wanted you to buy your own song and me to buy my own song. So what did they do? They shut down Napster and they shut down any way of copying music. And now what do? We all stream digitally, uniquely identified through cryptography, and we all have to pay, which is the way it should be. And more importantly, because we know when a streaming service plays a song, the artist actually gets paid instead of, it going off into the ether. So the ability to have digital assets and beyond music, stocks, bonds, currencies, commodities, art, real estate, private businesses, once everything is on a blockchain, and the blockchain is just simply an open public ledger, but once it's cryptographically secure in a line item, which is what a token is. A token is not a thing. It's not a little piece of gold. A token is a line item in a ledger that is cryptographically secure and says who owns what. So I own a Bitcoin, you own a Bitcoin, I own a piece of property, you own a piece of property. All of that is nicely laid out in this public ledger, and we have truth. And what's cool about truth is it replaces the need for trust. Like I right now have to trust that my money that sits at Bank of America is actually there and they didn't take it, right? Because it's my word against theirs. And so I have to trust them. Well, if I have a Bitcoin on a hard drive or on a cold storage device, I don't have to trust anybody. I have truth. I have an entry on a ledger that says Mark owns that Bitcoin. That is frightening for the powers that be because they like being the trusted third parties, right? Bank of America likes the fact that they can tell me, oh, I'm sorry, you can only transfer $25,000 out of your bank account. Like, that's unbelievable to me. It's supposedly my money, but it's not. It's the bank's money. I have an IOU, and I trust that they'll make good on that IOU. But in this new world of cryptographically secure assets on blockchains, don't need that. And that is extremely frightening. Jamie Dimon was in Davos, and he got up and he was, pissing all over Bitcoin and saying it was a Ponzi, and everybody got mad. Like, guys, don't get mad. Celebrate. Like, celebrate what? The guy's a jerk. I'm like, yeah, but here's the thing. He's one of the most powerful people in the world. You may not like him, but just factually, he, in charge of JP Morgan, is one of the most powerful people in the world. Full stop. Okay. He gets his 10 minutes of fame at Davos on CNBC. He could have talked about anything he wanted to. He could talk about the weather. He could have talked about crickets. He could have talked about anything he wanted. What is he talking about? Bitcoin. Jamie could have deflected, but instead he talked about Bitcoin. Now, why did he talk so negatively about Bitcoin? Well, because it threatens his hegemony. It threatens the bank's hegemony. You can judge the quality of an idea by the quality of its detractors. He understands that SWIFT and ACH and Fedwire are 70-year-old technology. They're slow, they're expensive, they're insecure, and blockchain using cryptographic security is far superior. But right now, Bitcoin used blockchain to create a banking system, can't call it a bank, but a banking system, a financial system that doesn't need him. Oh, he's like, whoa, no. That Bitcoin, that's bad. That's bad. But this blockchain is good. And he's trying to create something called JP Morgan coin. That's what's coming, and that's what CBDCs are. And that's why look, China's already there, right? China has a CBDC. They are using it for surveillance. They're using it for control. And look, it's a dystopian future if
It is.
governments convert fiat into central bank digital currencies because they're not cryptocurrencies. A cryptocurrency is a decentralized currency that isn't controlled by any centralized authority and can't be devalued and can't be controlled. But they want to create it by desk, and they want to control it. And I don't know if you've seen Augustin, whatever his last name is, the guy from BIS. He's a giant guy. And he says, well, of course, we should control your money. Of course, we should be able to say, if you don't spend your money by Friday, it goes out, it disappears. Or, how about this? You get paid on Friday, have a couple cocktails, you drunk text about the president, and you wake up the next morning and your money's worth 80 cents on the dollar. They could do that. Or let's say Walmart pays the government extra to say, you know what? The money doesn't work at Target. We want it to work only at Walmart. That could happen. And people are like, it'll never happen. Yeah, it'll happen. And so we need to opt out. We're all going to live where we live for now. And in so doing, you have to subject yourself to the rules of law in those areas and the fiat in that area. But I don't have to have all my money in fiat. I can take some portion of my wealth out of that fiat system, out of what will eventually be that central bank digital currency system. And I can put it in this other system, Bitcoin, and it preserves that wealth away from the decimation.
While Satoshi gave us the possibility to create unique assets in the digital world, cryptographically secure them with proof of ownership, outside of anyone's reach, governments want to introduce a digital currency they created and control, to keep the masses subdued to their will and power. According to Yusko, that's the whole plan. What are your thoughts on this matter? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give us a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. This is Let's Talk Crypto, and we'll see you in the next video.